Hello and welcome back. And in today's module 4, which is the last module, we would be going through on how to clean up your data using Power Query Editor. We'll also be showing you how to obviously import data from web, from a folder, and also from files, either your Excel file or CSV file. We'll also be showing you the different data sources you could also import your data into Excel and then use Power Query to clean up your data and then help you analyze your data thereafter. We're also obviously making use of the previous knowledge that we've gained in our pivot tables and our power tables as well. Now, before further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first thing we'll do is open up our Excel, and I'm going to show you on how to obviously get this data from a web, from the internet. Now, let's assume, for example, I want to be able to get out the data from Wikipedia, and I want to get to see every country who has won, who has been a part of soccer play for those who love football or soccer, and I want to get to see their results for those who won. I would not be going in detail on the cleaning because I would show you a different example to be able to do this, but I just want to show you the different ways you can actually import this data. Some of you might ask, is that possible? How do we get the data and all that? It's in text and all that, but I can tell you that most of the websites, majority of them operate in a table format, in rows and columns. And as far as Excel can identify that, you can actually import that data in Excel. So let's, for example, this is the link, Wikipedia, and then we can see that we've got tables here already. We've got different tables that Excel Wikipedia has got. Now, how do I obviously import this into Excel and make an analysis out of it? Very simple. All you need to do is come to your data on your data tab, come to new query, and I want you to go to from other sources, click on from web. And then a dialog box will come in. Now it's asking for your URL. For those who do not know what a URL is, it's a unique resource locator. Now you go to Google, copy this link, that's the URL, and then you're going to paste it. Just leave it at basic, okay? It will still do exactly what it's got to do, and then say okay. Now a new dialog box would open, and then you will then have all the tables that will be fetched out from Wikipedia on the left, and then right here is where if you click on any of this, you can actually preview the data. So I can actually look at this and say, is this what I'm looking for? No. Do I really want an attendance? Well, if you actually want to get to know total attendance by country and by cities, based on the stadium capacity and things like that, you can obviously do that. Do I want to look at the results? Maybe this is what I'm mostly interested in. I want to get to see who has won and the first runner up, second runner up, and things like that. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is the data that I'm interested in. So I'm just going to click select multiple items, and I'm just going to click results. Okay, so I've gone through this, and this is what I'm looking for. Now I would advise, do not quickly load this into your Excel because you will definitely get errors. You need to be able to clean up your data, make sure that each of these columns and rows are are being identified by their rightful data types. You have to ensure that there are no missing values. I already can see that there are also data clean I need to do. I need to take up the first and second row because they are duplicating rows and it's not what I need as a value. I can see some dashes here. So you see, you need to obviously clean this data. So it's not advisable to click on load. You would need to go to transform data and then clean up your data. Now, when you click on transform data, the Power Query Editor comes in. So I will not be going in depth in this one, but I just wanted to show you that you can actually import your data from the web. But I'll be going in depth just very soon with other exercises that I'll be going through on how you can use Power Query to do a lot of things. So I just wanted to show you that you can do this. So we're not going to save this. But if you wanted to save, you just go to file and say close and load. But we're not going to save it. We're just going to exit the Power Query Editor and then discard this because we do not want to go with this. Now that's how to do that. Now, if you also want to import data from CSV files or workbook, either a CSV file or workbook you have downloaded a data, you can obviously import that here. All you need to do is click on this. It will take you to where that file has been saved on your system, your computer, and then you just click on it and it imports it as well. It follows the same process that you saw initially, taking you to the Power Query editor. You check if that table is what you want, and then it opens the Power Query editor itself for you to do your cleaning and analysis. You could also do for Excel from a text, even from a folder. We would also be going, one of the things I'll be showing is how effective to get a folder from in analyzing your data. And then you could also get your data from databases, either SQL, Oracle, IBM, and so many more, so many more. So you can get to see that Excel and Power Query is a very powerful tool that I can actually connect to your different data sources and getting those data into Excel through Power Query Editor, clean up those data and make meaningful insights out of it. So for the purpose of this, we would be going through getting our data from a folder. Now, that is the very most common thing that apart from analyzing from text and all that, which we have done in our previous module. Now, let's assume that you work in a company and your manager is giving you, let's say, for example, 2 months data, and maybe he gives you the first one, and then 2 days later, he gives you the second month for you to analyze. Now, you don't want to obviously clean up the data for the first one and make analysis of it, and then in 2 days' time again, you have to repeat the same process. That will be time consuming. Now, how do you get to automate that? Now, that's when Power Query comes in, because it will clean up your data for you and make things easier. Okay, so I'm going to, obviously, these are the data that I already got on this model 4. So I'm just going to make sure that I've already identified where the location is. So make sure you've already got that data on your folder. So it's already on a folder which is called model 4. Okay, so that's the folder I'm going to pick up this two from, but I'm going to start with the first one. All right, so what I'm going to then do is I'm going to go to this data, make sure I'm on the data, and I'm going to go to new query, and I'm going to from file, and I'm going to say select from a folder. Okay, and I'm just going to look back again to see where is it saved, and I'm just going to follow through the pathway. So 2023, and then what else is here? And then module videos. I'm just going to go to my module videos, and I'm just going to go to let me check this again, module videos and class data files. So class data files, and then module 4. So now it's picked up already your folder. You might not get to see the content here because it's not selecting the file itself. Be it an Excel, it could be an Excel. It's not selecting based on that. It's selecting based on the folder that houses what it's inside already. So that's what it selects. Then I'm going to click on open. Now, once I then do that, I'm going to tell Excel to combine this data. This I want to combine both April and March data together. Okay, now whatever I'm also showing you, if you want to also go by it by just April and then do it and then come to do March, it's still fine. You will still get the same result. But let's say, for example, I want to combine both of them. I don't want to clean this one separately and clean the other separately. Before you transform your data, and I would always say, do not click on load, okay? Because you might have some data cleaning you need to do, identify data types, which I'll be showing you what are data types in Power Query. So I'm going to say Excel, I want to combine and then transform. So I'm going to click on this drop down and then click the first one, combine and transform. Now what it does is it combines both months of April and May together, 2014. It combines those months together, and then you can actually preview to get to see. So I'm going to now, then it shows you the different things it has identified. So it's showing me that, oh, there's one that is a category fact and dim table. Maybe do I want this? It's also showing me the sheet 1. So I'm just going to go through and then select what I think I want. Maybe let's say, for example, what I think that presents the data that I'm looking for more is on this sheet 1. Okay, so this is why the preview is there, so you to go through and see, is this what you're looking for? So let's say, for example, that this is what I'm looking for. Now what I'm going to now then do is I'm going to click on OK. Now when I click on OK, the Power Query editor would then open up. Okay, now this is the Power Query editor, so it's now opened up, and I can get to see that all my data is now here. So I can get to see that I've got all my data here now. All right, so all I then need to do is all I then need to do now is to explain to you what all these things are. Now, this is what a Power Creditor looks like. You've got here on the right, you've got your apply steps. The source setting is where it picked out the two different two different files, which on the folder, which was for the March and April 2014. And then the filter hidden is Excel also helps us to filter some hidden files that might also be there. And then these are just customary things that it does. It helps you rename columns. It removes any column that it doesn't think that it's necessary. Then it expanded our columns because we had to merge two together. So now it merged and then it expanded both together. And then it helps change our data types. Now, I'm going to take off this one. The reason is because sometimes Excel is smart, okay, but they might, there's also some limitations as well. So we just want to ensure, which is a good practice, to ensure that accurately the data types are also being identified. And also this is also a good way for me to also show you what are data types and how do you identify what a data type is. So now I'm going to remove this chain tab. I'm going to close it and exit. So when you remove this, you have to be very careful. Make sure that before you exit this, you're sure that maybe you don't need that. Okay, because Excel doesn't have undo redo. So I'm just going to take this off. Now I'm going to now then show you on how to obviously identify data in Excel using Power Query Editor. Now, if you look at this source name, it already shows that it's got both text and it's got numbers. But before that, how do you change your Power Query data types, and what are data types? Data types are what identifies that data. Is it as a text? Is the data present itself as a text? That's in strings or in Word. Does it present itself as a decimal number, a currency? Maybe for example, you're trying to talk about profit and all that currency. Does it come in as a whole number? For example, maybe it was a serial number or maybe a quantity. Okay. Does it come in as percentages? Does it come in as dates? Does it come in as time? Does it come in as duration, text, true or false, and so forth and so on? So these obviously are the data types that we've got in Power Query Editor. And the good knowledge of this is that once you've been able to know how to use Power Query Editor here in Excel, you can also use the same knowledge in Power Query Editor in Power BI. It's the same Power Query Editor in it as well. So this is a very important and a very powerful tool to learn. So now we'll look at this. April 2014. What does that tell us? It tells us that it's a date. It's right. So what we're going to do, we're going to choose a date data type. So we're going to choose this, not date and time. We know there are some dates that come in, maybe for example, April 2014 dot, maybe then they put the time, okay, maybe 19 o'clock. So, but this is just dates. We're going to select dates. Now you see that if I select date, it's identifying that this is the wrong data type, okay? So it is not correct. So we're going to select text. Now, the reason we are going to select text is because this comes in, it's not in a proper date format. Now, a date format would be this, all right? That's got 17/04/2014. Now, this is actually a proper date format. This is not a proper date format, okay? So this, it comes as a text, okay? As a word, a string, an alphabet. This comes in as numbers, as a whole number. So when you have both a text and a number together, you would have to select it as a text data type. So I purposely had to put this date here so that you can get to see that if I do this, it should give me errors because it is not a date format. Now you see when I select this one and put a date format, you will see that it will take its shape. So now that we know that this is a text, I'm going to come here and then just put text and say replace current step. So now it has identified this as a text format. Now, when it identifies as a text format, it puts it at ABC, okay, to tell you that it's a text format. And then we've got this as a row number. So I'm just going to click on this drop down to see to ensure that there are no decimal places and all that. So I can see that they are all whole numbers, okay? It doesn't have any decimal place in it. I'm going to click right here as well, and I'm going to say whole number as 1, 2, 3. So when I clean on it, you can see that there are no errors in that, meaning that you have identified correctly that particular column. Now we already know that order ID just as this. I'm also going to put this as text because it has got both text and numbers. So I'm going to select this here, okay, this little icon, and I'm going to come down to text ABC, and you can see that there's no error because I identified that correctly. If you identified that wrongly, it would give you an error as well for you to identify that, to make you understand that that is not the right data type. Okay, now this is where I'm going to show you how to use the dates. This is the proper dates format. I'm going to click on here and I'm going to set date calendar, and you can see that there was no error this time because this is the right data type. So I just wanted to show you so that you don't get confused, like, oh, but this is a date, it should work. This is how it Excel identifies is the dates here in Power Query. Now we're going to move into the next column, which is ship mode. I can see that these are all text. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say text. Okay. And I can see that these are both text and numbers. I'm going to come here and I'm also going to say text. Okay. Now we see that customer name, obviously customer name are also text. I'm going to say text as well. See, no error. This is also text, the segments. I'm just going to say text as well. I'm going to go down to country. Now there's another faster way to get to do it. Let's say, for example, I've looked at this. They're all text. Now I don't want to keep doing it one by one. All I need to do is click on one of the column, say control, click on the second, click on the third, click on the this, and then say text. So you could also do that as well, or you just do that manually. Okay. Then I'm going to go to the postal code. Now I can see that this postal code are whole numbers. So I'm just going to say whole number. Okay. And then this is text. I'm going to say text. And this is also text, well, text and numbers. I'm just going to be a bit fast in this, and then text. So do not worry. I would also be giving you this file as well. It would also be attached as well, so you can also walk your way through. While you're watching, you could also practice alongside. So this is also text. I'm going to put this as text. So you just have to be very careful so that you don't make a mistake. So you can see that we've got text and we've got numbers as well. So I'm also going to put this as text. And then I'm going to look at here. So now you can see on the sales column, we've got decimals. Okay, so I'm going to come here and I'm going to say decimal. Decimal is 1.2. That's how the Power Query editor identifies that. So I'm going to say decimal. You can see that the logo here, or let's call it the logo here, has changed. You can see when it's a text, it says ABC. When it's a decimal, it says 1.2. Now we look at this. This quantity is also a whole number. We can also click on drop down just to check to see that there's no one that comes in as decimal. So this is whole number. I'm going to say whole number, and that brings it as 1, 2, 3. I'm going to look at the discount. The discount already looks as a decimal, so I'm going to say decimal. And then the last but not the least, which is the profits, it also comes in as a decimal. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say decimal. So now you can see that on our change type, we have successfully identified every column with the accurate data type. Now we'll need to do some cleaning. So now that we've done our first cleaning, we are very certain that everything is fine and everything is good. Now the next thing we are going to now then do is this. Let's say, for example, I want to able to split out a column. All right, maybe, for example, this customer name, my boss maybe wants the name to be first name and then last name to be on a different column. That maybe my boss doesn't want this, or I don't want to see first name and last name together. It's very easy to do. Now before I go into that, I'm just going to walk you through on what each of this tab is. Now I've explained that whatever you do comes in here as the applied step. Okay, and then here just shows you the query that we just imported. Okay, and it's here. Now, I'm going to show you from the home. The home is the close and load, which we'll be showing you on the very last, when we are going to be closing and loading, when we are setting that whatever we have cleaned up is what we need. Properties basically is just the property of this data. So it just shows you that from the module, folder was called module 4. And if I give any description, it would also show that as well. Then choose columns is if you want to go choose a particular column you want to go to and all that, you can actually choose a column maybe you want to work with, you want to take off and all that. You can also do that here as well. Remove columns, you can actually remove columns from here and all that. All you need to do is maybe highlight the column you're looking for and then come down to home and then say remove column, and then that will remove itself. Or you can just right click on the column you want to remove and then just say remove. So there are two ways to go about that. Sorry about that. You could also remove rows, just the same way you could remember that these are your rows, okay? And then columns are also these are your columns, and then these are your rows. So you could also remove or add columns. We'll be showing you on how to split columns. Now, this obviously is, for example, if promoting as a data type, let's say, for example, let's say this source name wasn't rightly in our data type. Let's assume that source name, this row was in row 1, okay? And there was no proper header name here. All you do is you can click on this and then go to row, your home tab, and then say use first row as a header. It will promote this to become a header. Now let's try that. Let's just try that, and I'm going to clean that off once I'm done. And I'll show you how to, when you remove a file here. Let's say, for example, this was what I wanted to be as my header, okay? And then I'll then come here and I'm going to click on use first row as header. You see that it will promote whatever that was here and it will come in as my header. Okay, but obviously this is not the right headers I should use. I just wanted to show you how to do that. So I'm just going to clean up this step. Let's say, for example, I did something, I'm like, nah, I'm not sure I should do that. And I'm just going to click on that and it returns it back to the way it should be. So I'm going to say promote header, click on that, and then you see it's brought things back the way it should be. Now, merge queries, I'll also be showing you on how to merge queries and append queries. Manage parameters, I'll show you as well. Data source setting is where we got our data from, so you can see that this is where I got my data from. So you can obviously change your source settings if you need to as well. Then we'll move to transform. We would also be playing with a lot of transform. We've already talked about how to identify your data type. So you either select the column and then come to your transform and click on each of these data types, and it would, change that for you. So I only just taught you the fast way. Just come here to do it. Or even you could also right click on this as well and also come down here to data types to also change it. Change your data type, and you can also change it from here. So there are different ways you can actually do that right here. Replace values and fill values would also be practicalizing on how to do that. Let's say, for example, I want to replace every maybe for example, every first class, I want to replace that with a capital letter, because maybe I don't like the fact that it's sentence letter. We would also be showing you on how to do that as well. We'll also be showing you how to split columns, which we'll be doing to be able to split the first name and last name, just for example. Now, formatting is, if, for example, I want to obviously put all my letters in upper cases. Let's say, for example, this customer name, I'm going to select the customer name, and I feel like maybe I want everything to be in capital letter. So I select the column and I go to transform, and then I'm going to select where's the format, and I'm going to say make everything uppercase. Okay, I want everything capital letter. So when I click on uppercase, you see that everything now has been changed to uppercase, and whatever thing you do, it comes in here to say this is a step you apply to this as well. So you can also do that. So I'm just going to leave that for now. And then you could obviously do a lot of things. You could trim, you could clean. Now, trimming is, let's say, for example, you've got spaces in between. Maybe you've identified that you've got spaces, maybe space and then the word itself. You want to trim everything to make sure that everything properly aligns and everything takes up all the unwanted spaces. You could actually clean. All you need to do is just click on the column you want to clean and then just click on that, and that would also take an effect. So it's something you should play around with, and that's the best way you can actually get to learn. So these are also delimiters. We'll also be going through how to extract delimiters and how to do things. We'll also be going that. But I just wanted to obviously show you some of the things you could also do. Here's also how to add columns, which I'll be showing you on how to add columns and also how to remove columns. I already showed you how to remove columns and all that. And then this is also view as well. So now let's go back to the home tab. And let's go back into this. So let's say, for example, that I want to be able to split this first name, this customer name. I want to split it both to first name one place and then the second. All I need to do is click on the column. You could also right click if you want, all right, or you can just click on this and then go to transform, and then I'm going to split column. You see split column. Yes, I'm going to say split column. Now, one thing you need to understand is that when you're splitting a column, you're trying to split two different things, okay, in a column. You need to understand what is the delimiter. Now, delimiter is what separates the first word from the second word. It could be a space, like in this case, Jonathan Dorothy is being the delimiter is a space. So there's a space between the first name and then the last name. Some might come in as a comma, some might come in as a dash. Like, for example, we've got this as a dash, right? So some might come in as a comma, as a delimiter, some might come in as semicolons, or brackets or whatever. So those are what delimiter are. So now, first thing you need to do is identify what delimiter have you got between those two words. So in this case, we've got a space delimiter. So now that we've identified that and we've clicked on the column name, we're going to go to split column. Then we're going to say split by delimiter. Now, this dialog box also comes in. Excel also helps us, Power Query Editor also helps us to identify that delimiter. But in any event whereby it's identified that wrongly, which that rarely happens, but you identify that wrongly, or you want to basically specify it yourself, you can just come here, click on that drop down and say custom, and then put whatever you think that delimiter was or is. If it was a dash or a hyphen, you just put a hyphen there. But in this case, it was a space. Okay, so I'm going to come back here and then just say space. Now, splitting at. Now, when you say leftmost delimiter, it means that where do you want it to split from? Okay, where is the delimiter starting from? In our case, it's between two words, so it's in the middle, all right? So we're not going to use the leftmost delimiter because we don't have a space, the text, a space, and a text, okay? So we will be splitting that using the rightmost delimiter. Now, each occurrence is, let's say, for example, you've got first name, you've got middle name, and you've got last name, and each of those are also being split by delimiter of spaces. Then you could use each occurrence of delimiter. So at this point, we're going to be using the rightmost delimiter. I'm going to click on rightmost delimiter, and I'm going to say OK. Now you can see that it has now splitted the customer name. It's named the customer name 1, which is the first name, customer name 2, name it the last name. So now you can also rename columns here. Now, how do you do that? I'm just going to click on the column name and I'm going to rename this to, let's say, first name, just for proper naming convention. Okay. And all that. And then click on this. You can just click on that and double click on it and then just say last name. And whatever you do applies there. So it's, Power Query Editor has already told us that we splitted a column, we changed the data type, and then we also renamed the column. So it helps you keep track of the things you've also done, which is awesome. Now, let me show you an example of how to split this column that's got, 3 different ones with a delimiter, which is an hyphen, just for a play for it. Let's say I want to split, maybe I just want to split the, I want to split this 3. That's the CA, which is maybe, for example, I think that would stand for, let's say, California, and maybe the year, and then maybe the other ID. I want to split these things into 3, okay? And I'm going to use the last, which is the each occurrence. Click on this column, go to transform, click on split column by delimiter. Now you see that Excel, I told you, would obviously always help you identify the delimiter just in case, but you just have to ensure that that's the right one. And then I'm going to make sure that it's actually going to be on each occurrence of delimiter, meaning that once there's a delimiter, split it. Once there's a delimiter, so I should be able to have 3 columns at the end of the day because it should split out CA from 2014 and to split out 2014 from the number text as well. So I'm going to also leave it at each occurrence. If I do it at just rightmost, it would only split 1. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at each occurrence and I'm going to say okay. Now you see that it has also done this, and all that other ID 1, and so you can, maybe I could change this to year, and I could just change this to maybe the order ID itself, and maybe I could just leave this and put this one to maybe order, let's say country notation. I'm just calling it, something, okay, just to give a proper naming convention. So let's say, for example, this is what I actually want. So now we know how to split columns in Power Query. Now, another thing we could also do is to round up. Let's say, for example, I want to round up, in 2 decimal places, because, or maybe 1 decimal places. I can see 1, I can see 3. Maybe I don't want all my decimal places to just be like this. It doesn't look clean, okay? Maybe I want to round up everything to just 1 decimal places. How do you get to do that? Click on the cells, okay? You can also right click if you want. You can right click and then go to transform and then say round. So this is a different way you could do it, or you can also come to this transform here. You can click on this transform here, and you can also go to the rounding here and they say round up. Anyone is fine. So let's say I want to show you this different style where you can, it's quite easy. Just click on right click and then you go to transform, and I'm going to go to round. And I'm just going to say maybe round up to maybe just 1 decimal place, meaning that, for example, we've got 856. I should be able to see 1 decimal place at the end of it, and I say okay. So you can see that it approximates and gives you 1 decimal place. So it keeps your data much clean and all that stuff. So that's another thing you could also do here as well. So let's say, for example, maybe I also want to trim. Maybe I don't know if there could be spaces or things are not correctly. Okay, let's say, for example, there could be spaces and I want to be able to clean up any spaces in country, or let's use city. I want to clean up if there are any spaces in city and all that, because I wouldn't know. So what I can then do is I could then come to transform, and I could go to format, and I'm going to say trim, meaning that if there are any spaces in between, for example, you can see Lancaster and Rochester. Before now, there was a bit of space, but once I have cleaned the trim, now you can see that everything is all aligned and everything, and any space that you can't even visually see, it would clean that off for you. Now, if I want to say, okay, I've trimmed it, but I also want to clean it just to make the data all clean and proper, I'm also going to click on clean, and it cleans the data all the way down. And you can see right here, we've got 292 rows and 24 columns. So that's something very helpful here. Now, let's say for country, right? I want to be able to replace anything that says United States. I want to replace it in capital. Now, remember, you could obviously, maybe I want to replace it with US. I just want to say US, okay? Now, the one thing you could obviously do is you come here, and I'm going to say replace values. Right click, replace values. Now I'm going to say find value to find. Is what does it mean? What value am I trying to find? So I want to find every value that says United States, and I want you to replace it by US. Maybe that's what I want to replace it as, okay? And I'm just going to say okay, and you can see that everything here changes. Everything here changes to US, and then it shows you that it shows you on our apply steps that we change that value from United States to US. Maybe that's how I want to keep that and all that. So you can see that it's a very powerful tool. It's, you can do so many things. It depends on what you want to do. You can do so many things. Now, let's just assume, for example, that this is exactly what I want. Okay, let's do one more thing. Let's do on the sheet day. Let's say I want to split this by the year, by the months, by the day, and all that stuff, just to help me in my analysis. So let's use the ship date, okay? Now, what do? You go to your you could also go to your transform to do that, and then you can go to your dates, and you can go by year. So let's say I want to split this by year, so it will get out all the year out of this column and put it in a different. So you can see that I've got the year out right now. So you could also do that, split that, but let's say, for example, I don't want to just, because it's only extracted the year and taken off the others. Now that's not what I want. I want you to add it as a column, okay, to do that. Now I'm going to take off that step and put that, because I don't want to just extract only the year and then take off the date. How am I supposed to know my analysis? Rather, I want you to add that as a column. So click on the column. Now go to the add column, and then now go to the dates. So there are two ways to see, so that you don't get confused that, oh, but I did it now, everything's all messed up, and you get confused. What have I done wrong? So when you add a column, it then adds this year in a different column for you. So when I say year, and I should get to see my year added somewhere down at the end. You can see here, and if I come back here, I can still see that I've got everything still here as well. Okay. Yeah, this is the ship date. You see, this is the ship date we used, and then you can see that it brought out the year right here as well. I had to carefully look for it. All right. So now, if I want to also bring out the months out of the ship date as well, now I'm going to do this. One thing I'm going to say, when you're bringing out the months, I like to say bring out two different things. Bring out the number of the month as well as the month's name. It's very helpful when you're doing your analysis, okay? So I'm just going to click on the ship date and I'm going to go to add column. Don't go to transform from this, go to add column. If you go to transform, it only just extract this out and take off the rest. So, but when you go to add column, it adds that new one. Then go to your date and I'm going to say months. Now, first of all, this is the month number and this is the name of the month. So let's extract the month number, meaning that April is 4 and all that, May is 5 and all that. It's very necessary to do that. It will make sense when you're doing your analysis. Maybe you want to do it by quarter and things like that. Now, let's say I want to extract. Let's go back to the ship date. Okay. Where is it? Yeah. Let's extract the month's name now. So I'm going to go to add column. I'm going to go to date and let's say the name of the month, which is here. You can also, extract for quarter, week, and all that. But let's say I'm happy with just this and then just do the name of the month. So I should get the name of the month now here. So I can now then rename this. Let's just call it year. And then this is fine for months. This is fine for months. And then this is month's name. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure I add the data types correctly. Yeah, this is a whole number. This is a whole number. And this is also a text, so everything is fine. So let's say, for example, that I have gone through everything. I'm happy with what I want to do. But there are too many things you can actually do. What I'm going to say is try to just play around with it. It's best to break things. You remember when you were a kid, when we were kids and all that, we give us toys, we break the toys and then we try to couple those things back. That's the best way to learn. And then when you're able to finally couple something, it gives you this joy. That's the same thing in learning. So just break it, take up something, try to experiment, break things, try to fix it, and once you fix it, it gives you that level of satisfaction. Okay, now let's say, for example, this is what we want to do. We're happy with this. Now let's say, for example, we've got this result. Now this is the result that I first put up my Power Query, and I don't want that here. I can just come here and I'm just going to delete it. So you can obviously delete whatever table you don't want to see, but you have to be very careful to ensure that wherever you delete, it goes, wherever you've done, it goes. So let's say this is my model 4, which is for this Power Query. I just wanted that to be there. And I'm just going to go to file and I'm going to say close and load. I told you do not load when you actually get things imported in Power Query because you need to go to transform data first and clean up your data. Now, this is the best time to do close and load because we've cleaned up our data. We're happy with what we've done so far. So we can say close and load. Now, it will then load in without no errors because we have successfully put up our data files correctly, the data types named correctly. We have done everything. So it identifies that everything is all good. So I can just close this and then it automatically put this for you in Power Tables. I remember I told you in our last module that Power Tables are essential. One, it helps if you're analyzing something and then, for example, let's say you've created a pivot table previously and then you've made your chart. If you add any data below, let's go to the ending of this. If you add any data below this and click and save it and click on refresh, automatically that data will reflect on your chart, will reflect in your tables automatically because it's already in a table format. Okay, but if you don't put it in a Power Table and all that, you just leave it as a cell range, you will have to come back and then redo the whole thing basically, or change your source setting to capture the new side as well, that the new data that you have included in your table. So it is always nice to use Power Query. I think I also emphasize on that. Now I like to call this my data prep. Okay, so I'm just going to call this, let's say, data prep. Now what does I'm just more like data preparation and all that. So data prep, I'm just going to call this data prep, and then I can then make pivot table from this if I want. Now, this source name, I can decide to change it if I also want to change the name here and all that. But I will say if you want to change anything, do not change it right here. Go to your Power Query. If you want to go back to your Power Query, just click on any of this and go to Query. Just go to Query and go to Edit. If you ever want, if you feel like, oh, I want to change something I didn't change. Let's say, but this source name, let's say I want to change it to dates. Okay. Maybe I forgot to do that. I want to change to date. You can just do that here. And then that step would also be applied right here that I've changed this to date. And I'm just going to come back, close and load. So I just wanted to show you can see that it's been changed. So never change anything here. It messes up your Power Query. Go back to Power Query and then change it. Now, if I now then want to make a pivot table out of this to make my analysis, which I've already showed you how to make pivot table, highlight all the columns. Okay. Now, when you highlight all the columns, all you now then need to do is go to insert and go to pivot table. And then it's always best to create this pivot table in a new worksheet. Okay, it makes it much cleaner. So I'm going to put in a pivot, and then we can now then analyze our data. So I already showed you obviously on how to analyze data, how to build charts in our last module. So if I wanted to know the customer ID, I want to put that there, and I want to see all my customers in different regions. So I can see that in central region, I've got 51 customers, in the eastern region, 63, and I could obviously then make maybe a chart out of this. We will not be spending time in this. I just wanted to obviously show you this was just more about Power Query, and then you can create a chart, and then you can obviously analyze your data and then present your findings and beautify it and all that. So this brings us to the end of how to use obviously use Power Query editor to be able to analyze your data. So now that you've done it, if you were given another file, let's say for example you were given a different file, let's put let me just duplicate this and call it let me duplicate it and call it 2015. Okay, I'm just gonna, just for learning purposes, let me call this April, May, then June, or yeah, let me just call it June 2014, or maybe June 2015. It doesn't matter. Let me call it June 2015. Let's say this was what you were given, the new data you've been given, and I'm just going to open it first of all, just to maybe just change a lot of things, a few things. Let's say the ship dates. Okay, let's say the ship dates, I want to change it to 2015. I'm just going to enable my editing, change to 2015. Now I'm just going to drag down. Okay, and is there any other date here? Is there any other date? Any other date? Okay, let's say for example we've been given this data as well to obviously do. I'm just going to save this. Okay, and I want to obviously now then add. So that's when that folder is good. So all I just need to do is dump in that here. That's all I need to do. Once I just dump it there, the file in that folder. Give me a second. Once I dump that there, all I need to now then do is come here and say refresh. And that's it. So when I say refresh, if I click on this date, you see automatically you've got your June. So I didn't have to go clean. You see, this is the beauty. I already got my June. This is the June we just input here. It will clean everything, every step that we applied, every single step we applied in those other two. It will do the same thing for you. It will split everything out for you. It will do everything. So your boss will think, oh, you will have to do this whole cleaning thing again and all that stuff. But no, you don't have to. You already just know that you don't have to and all that. So that is the power of Power. If I didn't put this in Power Tables and I didn't use Power Query Editor, I would have to redo the whole process again. So you can see that we've got our 2014 here. And if you go down and all that, you can see that we've got our 2015 too. If you go on the date, you can see that we've got our 2015 June. It's just somewhere in this data. So you can get to see that this is the best way to obviously make things easier. And then if you come here and then you do your refresh and all that, if you're, you can see that more things have been increased. Before, if we go back here, if we go back to this, it was 51 by the time we had not refreshed and put on the data. Now, if we refresh, you see that it's now taking up the 2015 data. How do I know? If I bring the data, put that on filter, and I can get to see that I've got that the June 2015 that I just included here as well. So you see, this is a very nice way to basically automate your work and make things easier. So now I hope you really found all this very helpful. This would be bringing us to the end of our data analysis with Excel class. And I'm very grateful and thankful for everyone who's joined it from the very beginning. And I hope you're able to get value out of this. And I want to say thank you very much. Just practice, practice, and practice. And the sky would only just be the stepping stone, not even just the limit, but the stepping stone for greatness. Thank you very much. And I'll also be uploading exercises or even a link where you can actually go to download something like Kaggle and the rest of them, where you can go and download data set and practice on that. Okay, and thank you very much, and I really appreciate and see you next time in our next other courses that we would be developing, such as Power BI and the rest of its like. And I hope you also get those courses as well. Thank you and God bless.